some of them just, I call them jewels, avian jewels. To me, it's a precious document, a document of nature. Nothing any prettier than a bird egg.
The C.E. Blevins Avian Learning Center is located in Whitfield County, which is in northwest Georgia. But we are in a very rural, agricultural area, and that's one of the things we love about it, and one of the reasons we chose to have our learning center in this area. But it's in the country, and we wanted to have a nature trail that has real habitats for birds, that birds and other animals are in. And it's fairly close to where C.E. Blevins lives. He lives just across the Tennessee line in a small town called Appleton, Tennessee. But it's within about 15 miles of his home. And in fact, there are no traffic lights on the road between his house and the learning center. Artists have a vision, and they share their vision. And their vision can be on a piece of paper, or it can be on any object, or it can be on sculpture, or it can be a lot of different things. And we may not be ready to see their vision take form. It might take us a long time. It took me like 10 years to appreciate these bird eggs.
I've never seen an egg that is not balanced and turned right. So I've enjoyed it. That's the thing I've done more than anything. Something I could do and enjoy that nobody else could do that I knew of.
So I've only recently, come to appreciate the artistry and why it's important. But his vision as an artist was to, as I said before, was to share the beauty of eggs. Not to make money, but just to show the beauty of it. And so that vision, I think, is important, and that's how he's brought his background in art to this project. And I think it's inspiring. I just think that as artwork, they are unparalleled. And some people say, well, they're just fake eggs, or somebody else would say, well, it's not really fine art because there's not it has nothing to do with the classic painting style. All that's true. I don't deny that. But just look at the beauty that's represented, the natural beauty, and the commitment that it took for him to replicate it, and it's beautifully replicated. When we brought all these eggs in, it took my dad a year to make these eggs that you see here, because some of them he had already in his basement, and he had a lot of the rough forms. But it was a long year, and he would work 12 hours a day to do this, because he was doing one egg from one species. And I spent 4 hours with him one day, and we painted 3 eggs.
I don't know how those freckles get on, and how they're so pretty. And even the ugliest birds are looking like the prettiest eggs.
The common crow has a very beautiful egg. And, when you see a common crow around here, you don't think of them having such pretty eggs. It was a true labor of love by a crazy visionary artist. And I dare say that this would never be replicated by one person. If it's ever replicated, it would be a joint effort by a lot of people who have a passion for it. And I don't see that even happening because of the money that's involved. He did this for free, just because of his passion for this particular project.
And Zach has been one of the main characters. He wanted to learn how to do it so bad, and he stayed with it until he learned it. And now he can do it as well as I can. I'd like to say I'm pleased with him.
Well, my name is Zachary Reynolds. I'm C.E. Blevins' grandson, and I've been involved with the Avian Learning Center now for about 4 years. I spent a summer learning how to make these bird eggs, that were up to the quality level that my granddad said was required in order to make a truly lifelike egg, one that's true to the size, shape, and color of the real thing. This is a very privileged look into the art of bird egg crafting, and this is the symmetricizer, what my granddad came up with to actually put the right. Using this, it's basically a clay lathe which spins, and so using a bit of sandpaper, you can hone the egg in and get the exact curvature. So that makes it really species specific. One of the things that makes it species specific. So basically, I can give you just a quick little run of it. Make sure it's off. So you turn it on, and you get it going, and you kind of center it. My fingers are red from spray painting. But then you can come in with the sandpaper and actually remove the bit that's out of true. So it basically just shores it up. My granddad had a real hard time figuring out how to make these things perfectly round or just smooth, because you start by rolling it in your hand and getting a rough shape going, and then you can actually use this to dial it in. But before that, he couldn't make species-specific eggs because they just didn't have the right characteristics. So this was a real breakthrough, and he's, as Joel said, he's really proud of it, and kept it secret for a long time. We're, as I said, this is a rare look into the symmetricizer.
First the egg is formed to a rough shape when it's wet clay, and as I said a while ago, if it's going to be any size at all, it has to be made hollow on the inside. Otherwise, the clay will not dry out enough, and when it's fired, that moisture will build up and crack the structure inside the kiln. But when the clay dries properly, then it's symmetricized. We turn it on our lathe and then fire it in the kiln, usually up to about 1800 degrees, which gives it a good hardness. And then when it comes out and it's cool, then we hand mix the paint just like my dad did and paint it the correct coloration, and then it's ready to be sealed. And some of them we sell, most of them we use in our nest reproductions here. And it's a very time-consuming process, and it's hard really to sell them and recoup the amount of time that's invested in them. So that's not really our goal. Our goal is to use it as an education tool, something that kids can hold in their hand, and they can learn about migratory birds and another aspect of migratory birds, which is the nesting aspect, and how they raise their families, and how dedicated they are to raising their families, and what a hard job it is for them to raise their families, and how each step is actually quite a beautiful process. So that's our main mission here, is to provide an educational experience based on migratory birds, but it's also about humans' interrelatedness with trees that create oxygen, with the birds that live among the trees and eat the insects in the trees, and help provide a balance of nature by eating insects. And it's just a fascinating field of science and nature combined, and a little bit of artistry thrown in there too. One of those is a chickadee. Carolina chickadee.
We just want to again, call attention to the simple things in life. You know, something that we can all just go out into our own backyards and be engaged by. You know, that this thing, our natural surroundings. It's, you know, it's just so nice to get out and just slow down a bit and take a closer look at something that seems mundane.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife says that all the hunting is way down. The numbers of people that hunt are much less. Fishermen are in decline also, and people are not using the national parks, at least in the eastern United States, like they used to. So this generation of kids that we have now are into computers, and they're busy in school. They're much busier in school than we were growing up, than I was. So they spend less time in the outdoors. So this is part of our way of reconnecting them to the outdoors.
Those are real?
Yeah, those are real eggs.
I can't tell the difference between the real eggs and the fake ones.
They love this particular kind of nesting box.
That's
the
a
cavity dwelling.
nesting box.
We have a really hard time describing to people what we've got here. You know, when you tell someone that we've got an egg museum, they're like, "Oh, that sounds great," but I think in the back of their mind they're like, "That sounds really weird," and you know, what does that have to offer us, and what can we gain from that? When they leave, they're just their curiosity has really been sparked, and they just have kind of been humbled because, you know, the life of these birds, you know, we just take it for granted, but they're doing their thing perpetually, and you know, I just think that people are really fascinated by that.
It's hard to tell somebody, we have a bird egg museum, you ought to come look at it, and they just think, well, these fake eggs, you know, who wants to go see it? But if you do come in and look at it, there is a visual impact that it has. It has a certain power, and it's a good place to start talking about connections, environment, conservation.
I think just being part of something that's relevant and something that relates to the future and the youth, you know, it's just an honor to be a part of something like that. And so, you know, I think we all want to be part of something that has the potential for lasting, you know, for a lasting effect.
But, you know, some of what you see preserved here in these clay replicas may not, it is a historical record that may not always be available. These bird eggs may not always exist in North America. This collection may not always exist, but these clay eggs will last longer than the real eggs do. And we don't know what the future holds, but it can be seen as a historical record.
That was fantastic.
What he loved was when he first started this endeavor, he'd always have a pocket full of eggs. He'd always show it to any and everyone he saw, and then he'd throw it on the ground, and he'd say, "And it doesn't break."
Sometimes they would break, and he would be humiliated.